into that. So we're going to see. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I'm really, really excited for today because we're going to be talking about the energy of preparedness and what that looks and feels like. And this was something that we talked about a lot in previous lives together. So I was like, you know what, let me create something. And we're going to also laugh about how hard it was to create content and a class around this. It's going to be fun. So please make sure you have water, something warm to drink if that's your vibe. I have my cup of tea with me right here. Okay. So that I can still be in the cozy, comfy vibes because it's been like way colder here on the East Coast. I'm currently in Philadelphia and it's cold and I don't really enjoy the cold. To know me is to know that I do not enjoy it at all. I don't fully understand why it's necessary, but it's okay. You know, there's a season for everything, and we need those seasons. Am I right? Let me know if you also like the cold, okay? Hey, Sag Rising. Okay. Hi. Hi, Kiana. I'm so excited. I have my notes up so that we can talk about it. So, first and foremost, let's take a collective breath together, right? Because I'm so excited I can just jump into everything, and I want to make sure that we're just like, honoring the fact that we have time, okay? We have time. So if you want to join me in that, and it feels good to close your eyes or soften your gaze just so you can focus inward, I encourage you and I invite you to do so in this moment. Just notice the body for a moment. Notice how it feels. Notice if there's any tension. Sometimes tension can feel like excitement. Just check in for a moment. And then when it feels good too, I want you to breathe into your lower belly, allowing that air to rise up into the heart space. And then to exhale, letting go, softening the shoulders, maybe softening around the jaw, dropping the tongue from the roof of the mouth, reconnecting the mind to the body, utilizing one of our superpowers, which is the ability to breathe. Our breath allows us to live. There's so much power in the breath. Let's take a collective inhale again, breathing into the lower belly, expanding that breath to the lower back, inviting the breath up into the heart. And when it feels good, we exhale, we let go, and we recenter, coming back to the space that we're in currently, okay? And let me know how that felt for y'all. Beautiful. Yes, cold as Chicago, but the sun is out. The sun was playing peekaboo with me today, and I was like, you know what, girl? You live your life. You do what's best for you. And I'm just going to support you. Even though I prefer you to be out, you have your own journey and your own desires. I'm going to respect that. Yes, I like when it's cool. But baby, this cold's not giving. Agreed. Like, and again, I do enjoy the cozy, like thick sweaters, layering things on. Like, I enjoy that, but to a certain extent. To a certain extent. Okay? Only 40s? Absolutely. Yes. Like, it's not, you know? And my partner, like, really loves snow. So he's like, oh my God, it was snowing. And I'm like, it was snowing? What? So it's very funny. Very, very funny. I'm a warm weather kind of girl. Put me in heat and I am just such a happy person. Okay, okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And just to go over some guidelines from Insight Timer, this is a live, so this is donation led. So if there is something that you hear today or that resonates with you and you're like, wow, that really hit, and I want to journal about that or it feels so good, by all means, feel free to leave a donation if you can. And remember that this is just me sharing something I'm very passionate about with you. So I always encourage you, take what resonates. Okay, like you don't have to accept everything that you hear, whether it's this live or any other live or anything really in life. Really sit and ask yourself, does this resonate with me? Does this feel good to me? Is this going to help me to grow in life? Or do I feel like this might hinder me, right? If you notice that you might get triggered at a certain point, like welcome that. First off, you're in a safe space. Let me also make sure that I say that too. This is a safe space. I take so much pride in being able to create safe spaces for people to explore themselves, to journey through their evolution, to witness what they may consider failures and start to see that, there's lessons in them, right? There's an opportunity for them to expand their consciousness, right? So you're safe here. So there's no silly question you can ask. By all means, ask all the questions. This is interactive. I'm not talking at you. We're talking together in conversation, okay? And I want to make sure that when we're moving forward on these topics, that you just feel safe enough to maybe be a little triggered, okay? And know that if you do need support and help, I'm right here in real time with you, okay? Let me know if that sounds good, if that feels good to you. I know sometimes people hear the word trigger and they're like, trigger? Like, no, but like that's part of the healing journey, right? Like, we'll have a conversation about this at some point about like being triggered is not necessarily a horrible thing, especially when you have the right tools to navigate being triggered, right? And that kind of leads us into today's topic, which is honoring the feeling of being prepared. So let me know below if you feel prepared to live your life. I want to know. You can say I do or I don't. You can leave me a sentence or whatever the case is. I just want to know if you feel prepared to live your life. Okay? And I will be scrolling to read all of the amazing responses. Okay. Beautiful. Honestly, when you say prepared, it makes me anxious. Okay, Victoria. First off, thank you for your honesty. We appreciate that here because I've always been one to obsess over preparing. I really hope that today's conversation helps to ease that need to feel obsessed about it. Because, yeah, me too. Me too. And we're going to talk about why that is. But I appreciate you for sharing that. I do feel prepared to live life, but that is also because of the work that I get to do. I think on my own naturally, without the work that I do, the things that I study, I don't know. I don't know. I want to say yes. I want to say yes. I want to give you like, yes, of course. But no, honestly, I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that um, there were certain things in life that led me to feeling as prepared as I do now, right? I want to make sure that the camera is like, there we go. I don't want you guys to have a fuzzy camera. There we go. Yes. Oh, I know that's freezing for you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You know. I love how you guys are. Yes. 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 But I put no action into living it. Okay. Yes and no. Okay. Beautiful. 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 Okay. I love this. All right. So there's an importance in feeling prepared, and I want to talk about how we kind of are. You know, people like, I don't feel ready, right? There is a sense of perfectionism in that we're going to explore today and talk about, because feeling prepared and being ready are like, they sound the same, but they feel different in the body. And we're going to talk about what that feels like, okay? Um, but I want to start by saying when we are prepared, we get to live a more fulfilling life, okay? We have a sense of resiliency that is rooted in thriving instead of surviving. Let me know if that feels good to you and if that makes sense. By all means, you can also use the hearts just to communicate with me if something resonates. And if you have a question, you can just drop that in the chat too, okay? So I want to talk about how preparedness can affect you in the past, the present, and the future. But before we jump into that, I want to share my own like little wellness journey on preparedness. So I used to always feel like you had to overthink being prepared, right? Where it's like, if I don't have a step-by-step plan of like, I'm talking about A, but then there's like point A1, point A2, point A3. If I didn't have that, I did not feel prepared. And I got super overwhelmed and really anxious because for me, expressing preparedness through that lens of obsession made me feel even more unprepared, because when something didn't go according to the list that I created, I lost my mind. I was just like, how do we deviate? How do we, I don't know what to do. And I realized as I've gotten older and just kind of taking in what I've learned with clients, with students, is like that feeling of being ready triggers this level of perfectionism in us. But what I've learned is that feeling prepared, just feeling prepared, feeling like, okay, I got this. It literally is based off the fact that I'm thinking about and I'm being mindful of what it is that I've already grown through. I'm aware of my skill set, of my genius, of my resources, of my community. I'm aware of the growing pains and the pleasures I've experienced in life. And that sense of awareness collectively allows me to feel prepared. So that means that I don't always know what my next step is, though. Preparedness and faith go hand in hand. Okay? I don't always know my next step, but I do know that whatever step it is I take, I can definitely not only handle what comes up, but I can really enjoy myself in the space. I don't have to know the next step. And I feel like being ready makes me feel like I need to know the next step. It's like I'm waiting for a pop quiz from the universe, right? Whereas feeling prepared is just like the universe being like, girl, I got you. You're good. You're great. You can just go on and live your life. Because as you continue to live your life, you are always preparing yourself. When you're leaning into your wellness journey or your spiritual journey, you're in a state of preparation, right? You're studying, you're learning, you're reflecting. And these are all aspects that help us to feel prepared, right? When I think about feeling prepared in life, I first and immediately think of reflecting, self-reflection, so big. I start thinking about what I've gone through. And this is why documentation is so important. This is why I'm always like saying it 1,000 times. And I'm like, please just document your life. I don't care if you journal it, if you do audio recording, if you do a Snapchat diary, or if you use your social media to do that, right? It doesn't have to be just to promote the latest and the greatest. It can be to help you see what you've gone through in life, right? You can make a Finsta, whatever. But I want you to begin documenting, because documentation helps you to see what you've done. We don't remember all that we've gone through. I can't even tell you all that I've gone through in the past like 2 weeks, to be quite honest with you. I don't really fully remember yesterday because life would just be, I'm a very present person. I look at my journals, I read through them, and I'm always in awe of how much I do already know. It literally blows my mind. And that's why I keep my journals and I do my best. And again, I may not journal every single day, but I love when I get to go back and be like, wow, this came from me. Like, I wrote this from this vessel, and this is profound. Like, not to toot my own horn, but you were really receiving God in this moment, and I love this for you. I get to look back and see. I look at my personal Snapchat, right, or even my Instagram, and I go through and I see all the events and things that I've done. I'm just like, wow, right, or the places that I've traveled. Like, sometimes I forget that I'm pretty well traveled, right? You forget so much because you're in a space of worrying, you're in a space of trying to figure out what's happening. We're super overstimulated as a society, right? So it can be very easy for us to forget that we are super capable of living our lives. And the truth is, like, no one else is more capable to live your life but you. But somehow, some way, we get to this weird space where we think that we can't, or that we're unprepared, or that we're just not ready. We're not ready to go after, we're not ready to call in the dreams that we have. Oh, I need to get this first before I do that. Oh, let me wait until I get this, and then maybe then I'll try that out. Or I need to get certified here or there. And I used to be like that myself. I used to be a steady person in school, getting the certifications, doing the things. And one day, one of my mentors were like, you know what you're doing and you know what you're teaching. You don't have to continue to get these outside validations for you to feel prepared. That's not how preparation works. It's an inside job. And you have to acknowledge that you are capable. And in that acknowledgement and in that acceptance, you realize that you are prepared. And it just shifts the game on how you show up to everything in life. This does not mean that there are not hardships that I experience where I feel like, whoa, I just kind of got Mr. Crab, you know the meme, where like, what's going on? Doesn't mean I don't have moments like that. But I don't stay in those moments for long. I'm human. So I might get knocked around a little bit, but I don't stay there for long. Because I've built muscle. I've built through practice. So instead of me being overwhelmed by the situation, I am like, whoo, okay. This is wild. And now it's muscle memory. So the next step is so much easier for me to know what it is, because it might come up in me like, call your sister, or go get that book and read this thing, or read this journal on page whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the nudges come in the more that you practice. But I never feel like I'm going to be stuck in this place of unpreparedness. And that's because I've come to realize the divine truth is that we're always prepared. You are prepared right now in this moment to live your best life. You don't need anything else. You're already prepared. Let me know how that feels for you. Let me know what comes up for you, okay? Knowing you'll be good regardless. Exactly, Victoria. I realize what I'm supposed to do now in this life, but I gotta get my plan in order. Kiana, we're gonna talk about plans, okay? Because we tell you, we will plan ourselves into paralysis, okay? Like I am a planner. To know me is to know that I love planning. Ugh, I used to do event planning when I was younger too. Like I really enjoy planning. But what I've also realized is that planning procrastinates. Like it causes procrastination for me. It makes me stop because I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can't take that next step because I didn't do this first. And when you really start leaning into how universe, God, source, whatever you call on to, how they work, it's really more of the plan is to show up and to keep your heart and your mind open and to focus in on whoever you call source. That ultimately is the plan. Because then the in between, the fillers, they fill that in for you instead of you. Right? And something that I consistently say all the time is that the mind is outdated. There are tons of research on this, scientifically speaking. We can only think of what we've already done. So there's not much new things that we can create. We've either taken it in somewhere, somehow throughout life, right? So when you have that understanding of like, wow, my mindset is going to kind of always be outdated. And let me also just say, I have no idea when my camera is just doing that, but bear with me. Listen to the voice, okay? When we witness that our mindsets are outdated and that there's really not much else that we can do to be forward thinking, you realize that, okay, well, if my mind is outdated and I can't allow that to lead me in my reality, then what am I supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be feeling through it. You're supposed to be using the body as the vessel it is to feel through what the next step is. And once you secure that feeling and you have that clarity around that feeling, the mind can jump into action. The mind is a tool, it's not a leader. The same way the ego is a tool, it's not a leader. When we let tools lead us, it becomes a crazy situation. And then we start demonizing and weaponizing parts of us that are truly meant to just be of help, right? So when you're thinking about planning and like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I have to make those next plans, I encourage you to shift the perspective on what that plan is. Instead of it being A to B, B to C type of thing, base it off of like, what do you need to feel? Envision that person that you know yourself to be or that you know you can be. Because truly, you already are that person. Like, you're already your dream self. It's already there. Like, that's why you have the feeling of it, right? Envision like, well, what is she, what are they feeling? And then from there, the questions start to evolve. Like, well, how do they move from day to day? How do they take care of themselves? Well, if they were having, an issue, how would they navigate that? You see? And then from there, there's wisdom in that because you felt through that. That wasn't a logical response. And then you were able to make it logical. You could take those steps and those actions and those plans that you need to do. Let me know if that feels good or makes sense, okay? That's why divine guidance is so important. It's so important. Oh my gosh. It's so important. It's so important. Like, I try not to think about the times where I was not divinely led because, I mean, they ebb and they flow. But allowing yourself to experience divine guidance is like the ultimate life hack. When I pray personally, my own personal practice, when I speak to my ancestors, when I do mindful movement, when I read, sacred text, this level of peace that comes over me is unmatched. And again, it's not to say that I'm not experiencing hardships in life. It's just that you get to plug in to something that's bigger than you. And then you realize, like, wow, I too am big. I too am expansive. And then I'm starting to realize how small this problem is. And then I'm starting to realize it's not really a problem at all. It's contrast, right? And contrast is simply just you having a life experience that helps you to clarify what you do want. That's really what contrast is. It's okay. I realize I actually don't like this experience. I don't want this no more. Thank you for the experience, but this is not what I want. You realize like problems are not actually problems. They're just moments to help you get clear on what it is that you do want to experience. And then you get to show up to these experiences or these problems with a deeper sense of gratitude, and you just navigate them so much more smoother. The people that used to annoy you no longer annoy you. You're like, oh, okay, you might just be a reflection of something within me that I'm not enjoying, or something in me that I've outgrown, or that I realize I've transmuted, and we are just no longer aligned. And it's that reminder to create some space between you and me, right? And having that divine guidance helps you feel prepared enough to do that. Helps you feel prepared enough to set your boundaries, right? To live by your boundaries. All of these things help you when you have divine guidance as that foundation. You tend to ask less questions about what to do next and more about, well, what do I need to be? Who do I need to be? What do I need to feel? Right? Because you can have a plan of action, but if you don't feel confident enough to go and execute it, you won't. Right? We can know we have a purpose, but if we don't feel brave enough to live it out, we won't. So it's less about doing and more about being. And that's where preparedness really comes in. Because when you're practicing being, you feel prepared, even if you don't know the next step. Let me know if that makes sense. I swear I just had this conversation earlier about someone I was talking to on the phone. They're still stuck, and I realized that I've outgrown them. So no, I no longer need to entertain them. You really don't. We really don't. And you got to be prepared to let those relationships lovingly go. They don't have to be malicious, right? I feel like there's that trend in wellness where it's like, cut them off if they're not serving your higher self. And it's just like, I love so many people from a distance. I don't play by my boundaries at all. At all. And some people might consider that to be ruthless or whatever, and they have every right to. That's their business. I'm not really concerned. But I feel prepared. I feel prepared to leave a relationship if I need to. I feel prepared to leave an environment if I need to, because it's rooted in divine guidance. Because I know that I'm making these decisions from my spirit, from something that is greater than me and my comprehension of it. So I'm good. Whichever way the wind blows, I'm good. I'm always good. I'm always, always, always good. I'm always prepared. You're always prepared. Always. 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 Okay, sorry. That just was a feeling. Okay. So I want to talk about how preparedness affects the past, present, and future, okay? So feeling prepared can soothe heavy and complex emotions like anxiousness, grief, or anger. When we feel prepared, we have more clarity, more confidence, and courage to respect what we've already been through. Like I just talked about, when we talk about the past, there's a saying that when you are experiencing the sensation of depression, it is because you are so concerned about what has already happened. And when you're experiencing anxiety, it's because you're so concerned about what hasn't happened yet, right? And the truth is, both of those things are irrelevant because they're non existent. The past no longer exists. And to be 100% honest, how we remember the past is inaccurate most of the time. And that might be like, oh no, girl, I remember what I remember what I felt. Yes, the body remembers it accurately, but how you've processed it in your conscious mind is through all the filters in which you experience life. That means even your outdated beliefs and perspectives have influence on how you have seen or experienced a past event. Right? It's the same reason why people can look at the same thing and get two completely experiences from it. It's because of their perspectives, their beliefs. They filter it out, right? So when we can respect what we've gone through, right? When we can look back at the struggles, at the strife, at the disappointments, at the ebbs in life, and respect what we've gone through. We don't look down and like, oh my God, I hated that time. My life was awful. No. There's no respect there. There's still animosity there. There's still healing that needs to be done. But when you're able to be like, dang, I really went through all of that. And I didn't even know nearly as much as I know now, or at least as much as I consciously know now. And I was still able to navigate that. Like sometimes I think about my life when I was younger and the amount of respect that I have for my younger self is just like, wow, right? That's also why I don't have that belief of like I'm competing with myself. Like Young Lotus is a teammate or a coach or a cheerleader. Like we on the same team. I'm not competing with myself. That doesn't even make any sense. Like life is already hard, right? But I'm able to look back and be like, wow, you got through that. I'm talking about like really thinking about like I'm thinking about the environment I live in now, the person that I'm with, the sisterhood that I have, the level of opportunities that I have, the way that I make my income. They were wildly, vastly different when I was younger. And I somehow was able to navigate all of that, the uninvited and invited chaos, and make it here. How could I not feel prepared? How could I not feel like I got this? Because really and truly, when I say I got this, it's not just me. Let me be 100%. When I say I got this, I'm talking about the ancestors. I'm talking about the angels, the spirit guides. I'm talking about God, source, universe. When I say I mean them. We go together real bad, okay? That's what I'm talking about. I got this because they got me, period. And that is why I feel prepared. Because I can look at the past and I can respect and honor what I've grown through, right? When we can remain in the present, be in the moment instead of thinking backwards, right, or thinking forwards, that helps us to be prepared too. Because when you're present, right, last week we talked about the power of simplicity. We talked about like when you strip away the complexities in life, life is actually not that hard to navigate. It's the same thing about being present. Being present and being simple are like sisters, right? When I'm present and I'm thinking about what I have to do in this moment, it is so much more manageable than my entire to-do list, than me trying to correct things that I genuinely can't correct because it happened already. Like, that makes life hard. That makes me feel like, oh my God, I really cannot handle this. Oh no, now I feel like my anxiety is going to start peaking and all these other experiences start happening, right? Let it all go and just focus on the now. And again, I can understand why that's like, okay, well, that's easier said than done. But that's also where we practice. You have to practice. You have to practice. Practice being present. For me, it's okay, I'm starting to have a lot of thoughts. I'm just going to start breathing. Like, I'm going to mindfully breathe. Right now, the only thing I'm focusing on is how deep of an inhale I can take and how slow I can make my exhale. And then you start inviting back other senses and things like that. And then you realize, like, okay, whenever I need to, I can strip away all of this BS and focus on right now. And in being present, there is power. And that feeling of power is because you feel prepared. You can handle that one task, whether it's through your own capability and skill set, through your resources, right? Or by simply realizing, like, oh, you know what? Someone else is better suited to do this or to help me through this. Let me contact them. Let me get in touch. Or I actually might need to pray about this because I don't feel like I can do this on my own right now. So I'm going to put a pin in it, send it to the ancestors, and then I'm going about my business because, again, there are other things for me to do, but they all can't happen at once, right? When we remain present, it also challenges our need to multitask. When we multitask, we don't feel prepared because there are 17 things happening at once and you're only one person. You're an expansive, divine, endless vortex of energy, but you're still only one person. So when we multitask, we split ourselves into these different ways, into these different spaces, and then we start to feel less whole. And when we feel less whole, we don't feel prepared. Let me know if that makes sense, okay? I wish them the best, however. Yes, Kiana, I love that for you. I love that energy. That's where I'm headed now. It's very satisfying. Yes, feel satisfied. Yes, yes, yes. I love you. Yes, I want you to feel satisfied when we're together, when you're listening to the insights, when we're just sharing collectively. That's super important, and I really am happy that that's a sensation that you got. When it comes to the future, it's about recommitting to the desires we have for the future without feeling overwhelmed. It's so important. Recommitment. Okay. You know how when you're doing really well in life, let's say like you've been wanting to work out and you're on a roll. Oh, I've been working out 3, 4 days. Now it's been a week or whatever, and you're at the top. You're at the peak. You're like, oh yeah, like I feel strong and ready. Or maybe it's that I've been eating healthy, or I've been praying every day. Whatever it is, plug in that thing, because you've had an experience once, right? I want to ask you, and I want you guys to be honest in the comments. When you got to that point of like, dang, I've been doing this every single day and I've been killing it. I guess I could take a day off. I don't have to do it. Like, I could just take a. I need a moment to breathe. I need a rest day. I need a moment to breathe, right? But then that one day turns into two, into three, into four, and all of a sudden there's this huge gap that you have no idea where it came from, and you feel like you're starting again at zero. I know I have those moments, and I've come to realize that that's because when it feels really good in life, when you are doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, or that you can be doing, excuse me, that you can be doing to nourish yourself, you have to recommit. You have to recommit to the joy. Because in the beginning, it was I got to get out of this painful space because it's no longer serving me. So you can't recommit to that. And I think a lot of times that's what we're doing, and that's why we stop. That's why we're like, oh, well, I feel good now, so like I don't have to like do this. No, you got to recommit to the joy, recommit to the feel good, because that's going to help you get to that next level. Recommitment might look like falling in love with working out consistently, or falling in love with journaling because you love how it feels when your head feels empty, where there's less thoughts going on because it's written down on paper, or falling in love with mindful walks, or falling in love with tapping every day because you like the way it feels when your energy is together instead of separate. You got to recommit to that. That is how you can feel prepared for your future. Recommitting to those desires of like, I want to feel good, because when I'm feeling good, that is an instant reminder that I am aligned. Period. When I feel good, I am aligned, because we are designed to feel good. We're not designed to feel bad. Really and truly, when we're feeling bad, it is our body communicating to us that we are out of alignment and that we need to get back into alignment, because that's what we're designed to do. Let me know if that makes sense. I think for me, I have to find a balance between consistency and not stressing if I don't stick to the plan. And this is where flexibility comes in, Victoria, okay? And for me, I am a very intentional person about my words. It annoys a lot of people, but again, that is their concern. I do not strive for balance, because balance for me triggers a sense of perfectionism. It makes me feel like 50-50. And that's perfection. That's perfection. Like, I'm not gonna always, it's not gonna always be that. Sometimes it's gonna be 80-20. Sometimes it might be 1% missing out of 100, because that's just where I'm at, right? But I do look forward to exploring harmony, because harmony feels good. When you think of something that is harmonious, whether you're looking at it or you're hearing it through one of the senses, right? It feels good to witness. It feels like, that was beautiful, right? It's an expression of beauty. So when you're looking at it through harmony, you realize that consistency can look like anything. As opposed to consistently being every single day, it might be sustaining the feeling, right? It might be inviting inflexibility. It might be being honest with yourself about how much of it you do need. Sometimes we don't need a 30-day run, right? And I can give you guys a personal example, like with my workout journey, my wellness journey, my physical wellness journey. I used to do like everyday Pilates, like everyday bar, like I gotta go like at least an hour when I was younger, right? And then I started to modify, and now I can do like 30 minutes 3 times a week, because I really have to look at my life and be like, girl, you're really active. You walk everywhere, you do all, like, because sometimes we don't consider everything that we do. So you probably are way more consistent than you realize. It's like, if I'm not doing this one thing, I'm not consistent. Like if I'm thinking in order for me to be consistent in working out, I must do Pilates X amount of times, but I'm not considering the fact that I go and I play with my nephew for hours, and that is like a 30-pound baby that I throw in the air and that I play airplane with. I'm working my body out. Okay. Or when I'm like bringing in groceries, helping my sister out, carrying those weights. Like, yeah, I'm always consistent in my workouts. They're just not always Pilates. Right. So when you start to really reflect, right, on what you're doing in life, you get to see like, okay, actually I am way more consistent than I thought I was. It's just showing up in different ways. That also comes back to the understanding of documentation. I don't know if you document or not, but if you do, I encourage you to go back and look through and see if there's a pattern you can witness, because you probably are way more consistent than you realize. I've come to realize that a lot about the people that I get to attract in my community, whether they be students or viewers or one-on-one clients, I have been blessed with this gift to be able to see patterns and habits in people's lives. It's a part of like my human design as a projector. And quite often they are doing miraculous and incredible things all the time, and they're just super unaware, or they've normalized it so much where I'm just like, I I don't think I could ever do what you're doing because this is so expansive and massive, and wow, my mind is blown by what you are already capable of. You're probably way more consistent than you realize. And if you feel like you're not, I encourage you to take some time to yourself and to see where that feeling comes from. Is that coming from what you've witnessed? Or is that coming from something that someone told you, or from your inner critic? Because if it's not coming from what you've witnessed in love, it's irrelevant. Okay? Fitbit is wonderful keeping track. Yes, that's another way to document. Fitbit, so good. Because you don't even realize how much, like sometimes even even when I'm shopping, I'm like, oh, I've walked a lot. These are a lot of steps. This is a lot. You don't realize it, because we're just living life, but it's so important to document. Okay, so I want to talk about how we feel prepared, and then we're going to do a little EFT session on preparedness, okay? Before we do that, I just want to check in and see how everybody's feeling. Does anything resonate with you? Is there anything that you need clarity on, or something that came up that you want me to, share more insight on or hold space for? If not, you can go ahead and like grab a sip. I'm gonna sip some of my tea. Oh, and this is another invitation to, if something resonates with you and feels good, by all means feel free to donate. It helps to sustain my own livelihood and for me to continue showing up every week to do this amazing experience with you, which I love. Okay. Oh wow. I did sweet tangerine and raspberry leaf tea. That was nice. Okay, beautiful. All right. While you guys are writing those things out, we're going to talk about how to feel prepared. And there are some things that came up that I was like, oh, this might be helpful for you. First and foremost, it's like utilizing your emotions to help you feel prepared. When I talk about emotions, I talk about emotions and being energy in motion, emotions, right? And they're here to tell us what's happening in the body and what we're experiencing so that we can remain in alignment with what is that we truly want, right? Um, when we are experiencing aligned emotions, I don't like saying positive or negative because I feel like that just, because like grief, depending on the context, can be positive or negative, right? To grieve something is a good thing because that means that there was love there. Do you know what I mean? It just hurts. It's just painful, right? Or like, I don't know if you guys have seen Inside Out. It's one of my favorite movies. I am a big Disney person. The movies, not the company. But when sadness is like doing her thing and Joy's like, oh my God, you're just trying to ruin this girl's life. Like she's supposed to be happy 24/7, and sadness is like, no, this was a sad moment. But that sad moment allowed her to have deeper empathy and compassion for this other person, and she became a better person for it, right? So like there are no negative or positive emotions. They're just emotions. They're just guides. They're just indicators, okay? um, as I was saying, when you have more aligned emotions to your desires and what you want in life, It helps you to manifest the life of your dreams. You can stay in that consistent frequency that helps you to have the endurance to get through more difficult times, right? When we utilize our emotions in the way in which they were designed to, we feel prepared. So instead of us feeling overwhelmed, we can be like, oh, I am feeling angry. Let me take a moment to sit with anger and see what it wants to share with me. Because your anger might be saying, this person is not for us. And then with that insight, you can practice being prepared by, maybe letting go of that relationship, or having a conversation with them about how you feel when you're around them, depending on if you want to salvage it or not, right? Emotions help us to feel prepared because they guide us to the points in which we need to practice. And in that practice is preparation. They go hand in hand. Okay? So utilizing your emotions, focusing on what you want. Oh my goodness, so important. Okay, there's like a twofold to this because this one excites me. All right, when we focus on what we don't want, we attract more of what we don't want, right? We talk about this all the time. It's like one of the basic laws of the universe. I even talk about this in the sense of like worrying. Worrying and prayer are like the same exact thing energetically. Like they're the same thing. Is that prayer is usually based off of something that is more aligned with what you want, where worry is you literally thinking about what you don't want. But when you understand the power of your thoughts, okay, and you realize that if you're worrying all the time, you're leaving no space for nothing else to come about, and you're calling more of that in. Worrying is literally one of the most useless things in the world. And I know that we do it because it's more of a cultural thing, things that we've learned from the guardians and the adults in our lives. But when you really think about when you worry about things, and then when it comes true, you're like, see, and this is why I was worried about it, because I knew it was going to happen. Your brain will do everything it can to prove you right. Because if it doesn't prove you right, then you feel like you're insane. You feel like you're going crazy, right? So it will start to, you can teach the brain, okay, sorry, my neuroscience side is kind of coming out. All right. You can talk to the brain, teach the brain to focus on what you want, because then it will literally look for those solutions in life, right? It's that same thing where you talk about like a type of car. Like, oh, I really like Teslas. And then your brain starts to notice all the Teslas in the city. I don't know if you've ever done that with cars or like whatever. Sometimes I do it with rainbows and I want to see more rainbows, and all of a sudden there's rainbows everywhere. It's because your brain is going to focus on what you're thinking about. So if I'm also thinking that horrible things are going to happen to me, I can't be surprised when horrible things happen to me because my brain is focused on those things. Because that horrible thing that's happening to me might be really amazing to somebody else, right? Like it's what we put the intention into. So it's super important that you focus on what you want when it comes to being prepared. Stop worrying about the fact that you feel unprepared, because it's really not helping you to even feel unprepared. Like it doesn't serve you. You're not growing from that. It's not strengthening you. It does absolutely nothing to feel unprepared. It literally lowers your self-esteem, your level of confidence. It makes you afraid to go out into the world and be yourself. There's nothing good from feeling unprepared, right? If you focus on being prepared, on feeling prepared, on what that feels like in the body, you'll produce more experiences. You'll teach the brain to look for things to validate my feeling of preparedness. And you'll be so blown away by how many things the brain will find to prove you right. Whether I think I'm prepared or I don't, I am right both times. One just serves me a lot better in the journey that I'm currently in, right? And I kind of wanted to touch on this thing. And so there's a book called The Psychology of Money. That's a really good book to read. I did like the audio version. It was like 2 hours. So good. Not what you expect at all. But it was so good. He talks about how there was a study during one of the economic downfalls in this country, where people were like, look, it's about to be over for the U.S. economy. It's giving pack your bags, go find a new country to live in, right? All of these like projections of like, oh, it's gonna be bad. People who are like, well respected in the field of like trend setting when it comes to like the Wall Street, the down market, all that stuff like that. They were like, look, it's about to be horrible. You're never going to get back out of it, whatever the case is. Like, it's going to be awful to live in this time and space. And he talks about how people were so quick to believe that. They didn't need any proof. They were so quick to believe that it was all going to hell. They were like, say less, you got to tell me. But what ended up happening is that we ended up booming from that. We ended up shifting and growing and accelerating, and it ended up being an amazing time to buy homes and to like get into the stock market, and people were able to like elevate their wealth in ways that weren't possible prior to what we consider an economic downfall, right? Again, perspective. But then he talks about how shocking it was for him as a financial analyst to see how people are always willing to accept the worst without hesitation, without any real backing. They are willing to think that the worst is so possible for them, but they will not put that same energy and effort into like the best outcome. And that's why a lot of people experience financial poverty, which it's a mindset thing, which is so wild because there are other factors, of course. I'm not being insensitive to that, but I'm talking about for this point of focusing on what you want. Practice focusing on the good things. Practice calling them in and getting excited about it and getting familiar with what that feels like, as opposed to like thinking of the worst, because the worst does not have to happen. And quite honestly, when the worst does happen, it's not even that. It ends up bringing you to an even more beautiful space that you didn't even know was possible if you allow it to. Okay? And of course, obviously, if you are focusing on what you want and you're getting more positive outcomes and you're properly expanding your energetic container, because that's also important. When you're doing those things, you're going to feel so prepared, right? I'm prepared to have a good time. I'm always prepared to have a good time. I'm not always prepared to go through struggle and strife though, because I'm not really enjoying that journey, right? But I am prepared to have more feel good moments because I take care of myself, because I enrich my mind and my spirit with things that help me to focus on that. Does that make sense? Worrying is for safety, but need to manage your brain to do so as appropriate. Worrying is not for safety at all. Your body will naturally let you know when there's fear. But again, we are so overstimulated that we tend to put it all together. There's even studies of how the brain has created a neural pathway in mothers that will cause them to worry. The brain will literally design that, but it's not a necessary function. It's just simply trying to tell you to be present about this thing that you care about. But you can do that without having to worry. So like even biologically, our bodies wire ourselves to worry, but there is no proof that you need it. Because when you are talking about, okay, I want to make sure that I'm safe, I want to make sure that I'm cautious. Being cautious and being worried are not the same thing. Worrying is literally thinking about the absolute worst thing over and over and over and over and over again. Being cautious is witnessing that there might be something dangerous here. Let me bring my attention and my focus and my skill set so that I can protect my body or whoever it is that I'm with. Be it my mind, body, soul, whatever. Those are two different things. So I just want to clarify that, because I feel like sometimes we might bring them together and that can cause us to justify feeling something that's not going to allow us to stay in alignment, right? Feeling cautious, making sure that we're safe, 1,000%. Because unfortunately, this world can be very scary at times. But worrying will bring about those dangerous experiences because you're thinking about it so much, not necessarily because they exist. A really good book that can help with that mindset too is from Florence Scovel, The Game of Life and How to Play It. She gives amazing examples on how when people are worrying about something, how they manifest it, and the minute that they're able to shift it, they realize that the worry was not necessary at all, and they're able to live a safe life where they don't even need to have as much caution. Because when you start talking about energy work, which is, again, a whole other topic, you start to, oh my gosh, sorry guys. When you start talking about energy work and how the aura works, The aura expands 6 feet out in front of you, the side, top, and bottom. Quite often, your body is already knowing when you're safe and when you're not. But if you're not attuned to listening to your body, you end up in situations you don't want to be in. That's why when you're walking somewhere and you get this feeling of like, I don't want to turn that corner, let me cross the street. And you don't know why. You just get a feeling of like, I need to cross the street. It's because your aura is 6 feet in front of you. And it sensed danger and it related back to the body of like, protect the vessel and cross the street. But a lot of times we're not tapped in and tuned in and we ignore the nudge and then we end up in situations we don't want to be in. Again, worry is not necessary in any of that because the body knows how to protect itself when we are attuned to listening to the body, right? Or think about a time, I'll give you guys an example. When I was younger, I was rushing to get to a train. You hear me? Rushing, sweat, everything. This is also why I no longer rush. Rushing to get to this train, and everything in my body was like slow down. Like I'm talking about, I didn't know where my keys were. I couldn't find my wallet. I'm like, what is going on? And literally my energy was trying to keep me home because it was necessary. And shout out to the angels, the ancestors. I missed that train. Come to find out, that same train I was going to be on had jumped the tracks, and it was like completely like really unheard of at the time, and there ended up being casualties. But I was forcing, with sheer will, forcing myself to try to get somewhere to meet expectations that society set when my energy already knew something was up. And I was not tapped in and tuned in like I am now. So it was like, oh, let's lose her keys. Okay, she found them. Let's get the wallet, right? Like there are so many, and I can't even tell you how many stories there are like that. Even with my mom with 9/11, she had a feeling. And she used to work right next to it. And she had a feeling. And she was like, I just don't feel good. And normally she pushes past it, and she didn't that day. And it saved her life. Like, that's why I am so, I guess, vigilant about worrying, because the body knows how to protect itself. Energy knows how to protect itself. Your ancestors, angels, guides, universe, source, whatever you call it in your time of need, know how to protect you. But do you listen? Are you willing to let them do what they do? Because if you are, there's less to worry about. Just for like context, but really, really good book, and I think you would really enjoy it. Okay, yes, fear is a strong motivator. Fear is a super strong motivator. But that's why I don't like being motivated personally. I'm not someone you can motivate. I like to be inspired. Inspire me. Motivation makes me feel like I have to get up and do something now to prove myself, to show value, to be seen. I don't care about any of those things anymore. But when I feel inspired, it's like my heart is cracked open and I just want to show gratitude for what I just experienced, and that leads me to act. It leads me to create. It leads me to move forward in a conscious and divine way. So for me personally, I don't like being motivated. Even when even motivational speakers, sometimes I'm just like, yeah, it's a lot for me. But you tell me a beautiful story about like your puppy or something chasing a flower, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so rejuvenated to go and do this thing. That's how my energy personally works. I'm not a big person on motivation, but I do love to be inspired. Moments like this are inspiring for me as well, you know? Okay, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Florence Scovelshire. I'm gonna put down her first name because honestly, spelling her last name's a little hard. But it's The Game of Life and How to Play It. The audio is available on YouTube. I'm hoping I can be able to say that, y'all. I'm still trying to understand what I can and cannot say, but it's available for free, and it's like 2.5 hours long. I listen to it like every quarter to remind myself, because again, when you're operating in this world, it's so easy for you to get caught up in what everyone else believes to be true. That book really helps me to remind myself of like, remember that you're the creator of your experience, sweetie, and this does not have to be your experience if you don't want it to be. Like, if it does not serve you, if it does not feel good, then don't do it. Really good book. Quick listen. And she was talking about this in the early 1900s. This, if I'm not mistaken, predates How to Think and Grow Rich. This predates that, because that book is low-key very boring for me. But this is such a good quick read, and she reinforces things that you know to be true because it's wisdom from the body, not from the mind. You'll get so many aha moments listening to it. It's a great book to read to feel prepared as well. So it's on theme with today's talk. Beautiful. I noticed that there's an updated version for women. I've read Think and Go Rich, the Black Choice. I read the original one. The only chapter that was fascinating was the one on the influence of women in these men's lives. That chapter people never talk about. I think it's like chapter 9 or something. And they talk about how, like, when he was studying these great men, that he realized that the thread to their success were the women in their life, whether it was their sister, their mother, their aunt, or like their daughter. It was the women that planted the seeds and gave strategy, and they just went and executed it. That's the only part of that book that I found interesting. To be quite honest, it was really fascinating that like all of these men that have created millions attribute their success to women. That was the only thing that I got from that. Okay, we have trust and faith. Trusting the process of life and having faith that things will unfold, right? Because when you have faith, you don't need to worry. And the right way is crucial. Feeling prepared involves in letting go of doubt and trusting that the universe will respond to your aligned vibrations and manifestations. Whew. We were talking about that today in prayer circle, and it was just so astounding. We were saying how like temptation is easy, right? And as it was being said, her spirit came to me. It was like, no, faith is easy. Like, being tempted is actually so much more harder for you to experience because it requires you having to literally push past resistance to get to the temptation. Whereas, like, faith is literally just being in alignment. It's not hard to do at all. Like, literally, we're designed to have faith, to be faithful, like to operate in faith. We're designed for that. We're not designed for temptation. That's why it feels so weird. Like it feels like I shouldn't be doing this because it does not serve you ultimately. It's going to put you back in a situation or put you back in a space in your life that no longer feels good to you, right? So when you allow yourself to have trust in yourself is a big deal too. Because when you trust in yourself, you have an elevated sense of safety. You have an elevated sense of security. And that helps you to feel more prepared in life. Because if you don't feel safe, it's very hard for you to feel prepared in life. Let me also note that I feel very safe. Even as identifying as a Black queer woman, I still feel very safe in today's world. And that is because of my trust in myself. I trust that I make really good decisions. I trust that my ancestors in the universe will protect me. I trust that I'm in healthy environments that are going to serve me. I trust in my discernment. I trust in the people that I call into relationships. Right? I trust in myself a lot, and that has been a journey and a practice. So even when things don't work out, I still trust in myself. I trust that there was a lesson for me to learn in that, and that I can learn from that lesson and do better the next time. You have to have trust. Trust in yourself is crucial, but also trust in whoever it is that you believe in too. Because if you don't trust that you're going to be provided for and protected by whoever you call on to in your time of need, it makes it extremely hard for you to feel prepared. Because you think that you have to do it all on your own. And that's where that feeling of overwhelm comes from. You're not designed to do this on your own. You're not designed to be self-sufficient. We are literally designed for community. There are studies that show when we are deprived of communication from other human beings, we literally deteriorate. We are meant to be intertwined, okay? Whether that's with spirit, source, whoever you call on to, or other human beings. You have to have trust in order for that to happen. If you are not a trusting person, you probably feel very afraid. You probably feel really insecure. And that would be where I would tell you to practice. Lean into how you can begin trusting again. And it's less about trusting other people and more about trusting yourself and trusting your source. I don't even realize that I don't even really think about trusting other people. I just trust that if I'm talking to you and I've invited you into my life, you cleared my energy field. Because my energy will repel. My energy will repel, baby. My energy will No, no. If you are actually able to come and talk to me in conversation, and you somehow got past through all of that, I I don't need to worry about trusting you, because you're here for some reason or purpose, and we'll explore that together, because again, this is life. But so important. So important to have faith. So important to remember that you're designed to have faith. That faith is not a hard thing. That even if you're looking at it from like a biblical sense, they literally say you need a mustard seed of faith to change your life. It doesn't even require a lot. That's because you're designed for it. It's like a built-in thing, right? So when you are allowing yourself to have faith, faith that I don't know the next step or even what to do next, but have faith that it will work out for me. And just leaving it at that. And maybe allowing yourself to rest or to go do something that feels satisfying or enjoying something that feels good to the body. And those answers will naturally come. The book that I just recommended also dives into that a bit more too. So good. And I want to see what else. Let me know how that feels for you guys. We talked about living in the now, being present, how important that is. As I said before, feeling prepared really means living in alignment. When you're prepared, you're able to detach from the outcome, which allows you to call in or manifest whatever you desire with more ease. And because you're no longer suffocating this desire, right? You are giving it space to breathe. It will naturally come into your timeline when it needs to. Preparedness allows us to have that sense of what's for me is for me, and it will appear when it needs to. And while it's not here yet, in that waiting space, in that liminal space, I'm going to take care of myself. Because that's really the only way for you to enjoy it when it comes. That's really the only way for you to sustain it when it comes, is to feel prepared and to practice in the meantime. Whatever it is, whether you're calling in your truest romance or a successful career or good health or a happy family, it's not about thinking about it all the time and obsessing over it. It's about like, okay, I've set the clear intention. I have clarity that this is what I want, right? I have the confidence that I'm going to be able to receive it because I feel prepared and I'm practicing in the meantime. So when it does arrive, I'll have the courage to be brave enough to live with it, to live in it, to learn the lessons that come with it, and to allow myself to sustain it. There's so much more for us to focus on than the things that we do, if that makes sense. Okay? Beautiful. Thank you for the recommendation. Okay, I see. Interesting. We are source. We are source. What did you do to get to a place where you're so fully trusting yourself and the universe? Oh my goodness, Mia. Good question. It was a journey. It was a journey. So I was in a 10-year relationship with someone that I guess I just told myself we were meant to be together because we were together for so long. And after a while, I realized how unhappy I was in that dynamic. And it was just this feeling of, I don't feel good here. And I'm noticing I don't feel good often in this space. And I sat with myself, and I also had therapy with this too. I sat in conversations and I started to witness the theme was that I didn't think I made a good decision with the person that I was with. And that made me not really trust myself. Of like, if you chose to be with this person for this long and to have these experiences with this person, it made me spiral. I started thinking about the fact of like when I was younger, I was homeless. And then I was like, wow, you couldn't even trust yourself to secure proper housing. Or times when I wasn't able to bring in income. Times when my mental health was just non-existent, really, to be quite honest. There were so many times. And then I started to feel like, wow, you do not know how to make decisions for yourself at all. Like, you're really bad at living life. This is crazy, right? That's that inner critic talking, because the truth is like, what do you like? It's life. You're going to have these experiences. I had to lean into practicing. EFT helped me a lot. I would tap on those stories. I would literally be tapping like, I think I make horrible choices in romance. And I don't really think I deserve to be in one. I don't like this experience at all. And I continue to tap and tap and tap. It led me to crying, to journaling, to sitting with my therapist a bit more. But I had to really allow myself to bring those deeply rooted criticisms that were guiding me, which I wasn't even aware of, to the forefront and begin dissolving them and transmuting them and also making peace with them. Because, like, that's how I felt. But that wasn't necessarily true, right? Um, Traveling helped a lot too. Being in other spaces and seeing people live their life, seeing people live their life happily with less than what it is that I had, that helped as much too. But when you're using EFT, I don't think I've ever expressed it on here because I usually have like a master class for EFT where I break down what's actually happening when you're tapping on the body. But every point communicates something to the body. Like for instance, the side of hand is a filtering system. So when you're tapping here, you're literally saying to the body, hey, we're about to tap on something that I need to bring to the forefront of my energy. So get it out of whatever cell is stored in this body and bring it to the forefront because it no longer is serving me and I'm ready to let it go. I'm ready to transmute it. That's what's happening when I'm doing this. The body is hearing all of that. I don't have to directly say that for it to be communicated. And each point does the same thing when you're tapping. So when you're doing that, it helps you to build trust because you're starting to talk to your body and hear your body. Sometimes I tap without saying anything so that my body can talk to me and just be like, girl, look, this is not it. We don't want this anymore. Like, I give myself space to do that. But tapping helped me trust myself so much because it clarified my energy to where I was able to be like, that's not how I really feel about the situation. That's like, I don't even know where I got that idea from. Or, wow, I kind of got the idea from my mom when I was younger. She kind of said that a lot to me. Or, oh, I got that idea from, an ex-partner because that's how I felt when I was with them. But, like, that's not how I feel about the situation now, right? And again, practicing that. Practicing in the moments when I feel like I made a bad decision, practicing feeling good. Of like, okay, that wasn't my best choice. But you're still here. And not only are you still here, you have a level of awareness to witness that, right? It's not about us never making mistakes. I make mistakes a lot all the time, okay? It's about the fact that when I am mindful of the fact that I am allowed to make mistakes because I'm human and that my mistakes do not make me. My mistakes are not my identity. They are two separate things. My mistakes are what I experience. But who I am as a person, as a being, they're not my mistakes at all. That's like saying like my taste of food is my identity. Like, no, I just really like avocados. That doesn't mean that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are two separate things. When I allow myself to make those mistakes and face them, it makes it so much more easier for me to trust myself because I'm being honest with myself. Of like, okay, I actually didn't like that. And again, contrast of like, I had an experience I did not enjoy. And it reminded me, it clarified for me what I do want to experience. So now moving forward from this mistake, I know I want to experience this instead of what I experienced. That's all that is. That's not an attack on my self-esteem, which allows me to trust myself more. Does that make sense? Because I feel like I can break that down a bit more because it is a very layered response, okay? But tapping was that main thing that helped me. That's why I teach it so much because I get to see how transformative it is for people. I can't tell you how many of my clients come in doubting themselves. And these are like really incredible human beings. And after a few tapping sessions, they're just like, they're laughing at what they used to think about themselves. Like sometimes I think about like how much I didn't trust myself. I'm like, that's crazy because who else are you going to trust? Like, because if you're not trusting yourself, you really can't trust anybody else. Like, you just start to laugh at, they become funny. It's humorous. You're like, wow. And then you're wondering why you had so much chaos in your life. You didn't trust yourself. You didn't trust people you were around. What were you expecting to happen? Where were we going to go from this experience? And like, I can genuinely laugh about it now because I'm human. Like, it's supposed to happen that way. Like, it's okay, right? But it gives me the opportunity to trust myself deeper. I don't look at my mistakes that they were bad things. I'm really grateful for them. Like, really grateful for them. And I might jokingly be like, oh, that was annoying or whatever the case is, but like, no. And again, that also goes into like having that respect for your past self. That helps you to trust yourself a lot too. I have so much respect for my younger self. Through all the mistakes that I feel like she's made, nothing but respect. And that also allows me to trust myself a lot too. Because I did what I needed to do to get through. My 20s, for me personally, were about surviving. And I survived. So that alone allows me to trust myself. I am still alive. And there are so many experiences and reasons where I should not have been. I should not even be here right now. But younger me navigated that and got me here to this day to be with you. I trust myself with my life. I do. Because like I low-key have no choice. Because this is how it's gonna be. But I do. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every disappointment, whether it was in myself or in someone else I allowed, I got through it. I got through it. I survived. And now I'm able to experience joy and what it's like to thrive and not have to worry about my basic needs as a human being. It takes time. Yeah. Okay. My mistakes are not my identity. They're not. They're not. They're not. They're not. And people can tell me that till I'm blue in the face. I'm just like, that's for you. That's not for me. And I'm not in denial about what I've done either, okay? I'm not saying like I'm perfect, because no. I just know my mistakes help me clarify what it is that I do and don't want. That's how I look at them. Mistakes for me are contrast. That's it. I don't put any more weight to them. I don't give them any more power. I don't harp on it and be like, oh, you did the same thing again. That's how life is. Life is secular. That's how we learn. We have a pain point, we experience it, and then we go through life and we have new experience and new coping mechanisms and skills, and we get back to that same point and we have a very familiar experience because it's never really the same. And it's an invitation for us to use what we've already learned in that new cycle to apply it to that pain point. And you keep having that experience over and over again until the pain point becomes pleasurable. That's how we learn. So when you're like, oh, I keep making the same mistakes, it's because there's new information for you to try out. It's an opportunity for you to practice something new. Maybe the first time you had that pain point, you were so angry in life, right? Yes, until you learn the lesson, exactly. I think about my relationship with people passing in my life. And the first time I experienced it was with my grandfather, who was like my best friend. I loved him to pieces. And I was so angry. I was so rageful. That is what I needed to get through losing somebody I loved so much. Me and grief have a very deep relationship. And the next year, it was my grandmother. And in that time, I felt dissociative. And each time I lost somebody and hit that pain point, it had to get to a point where the recent person that passed in my life, I'm able just to like honor the fact that they were living and that I got to experience them. At this point, it's like I got another angel that is like really going to look out for me and open doorways and communicate to me and help me find the beauty in life. But it took me so many times of experiencing pain until it became pleasure. Until it's just like, okay, they've transitioned to a new space and time, and I still have access to their energy. If anything, they're even more accessible to me, right? And that's a hard thing to get to when we're talking about losing people. But I'm like, if I can do that through my immense grief and find grace, I really feel like there's not much else I can do. Like that I can't do. Like, it just makes sense. It makes me feel prepared. We've handled some of the hardest things in our lives. And I don't know what your personal story is and what you've gone through, but I know that you're here right now on this live with me. So I know you either got through it or you're navigating through it right now. And you've got yourself to a safe space to explore a healing technique that will provide you some type of relief. So from where I stand, you're doing really good. And I'm super proud of you. And I'm so happy that we're together right now. Okay? Oh, thank you so much for the donation. Well, Lord, you sound like me. I'm not surprised. I'm finally able to accept the positives of losing my mother at 16. It took this long. I'm 40 now. And I mean, divine timing, right? We have to learn, like, the level of grace. Grace requires us to really go through the motions. It really requires us to really live in the moment, you know? And I think about what I've gone through in life, and I'm like, if I were a bit more present, it may not have been as painful. It may have been a little quicker. But even with that insight, I know moving forward, I'm going to experience a very similar pain point at some point in time. And I'm going to apply what I know now to that pain point and see what I get from it. It might still be pain, but it might be a different type of pain. An opportunity for me to learn more about what I'm capable of, or what I can transmute and alchemize. Or I might experience pleasure and be like, wow, that one thing that I thought was going to take me out literally allowed me to be who I am now. That thing I thought was going to break me just broke me open and revealed how much more light is inside of me. That's it. So simple. I was angry when my dad passed, and I was 31. We communicated since then, and I appreciate both of these deaths immensely. To have an appreciation for losing something, someone, if you can get to that space and have that experience, you are prepared for life. You're prepared for literally anything. You just are. You just are.